So it's vitally important to discover, first of all, that there is a voice in your head that indulges in self-talk most of the time. And for many people, interestingly enough, that self-talk, for many people, is not always negative, but for many people, it is more negative than positive. A good event that happened yesterday, you might have gone to a nice reunion, or you went out into nature and you witnessed a beautiful sunset. Okay, you can remember it today and think that was a beautiful sunset, or we had a nice talk yesterday. But you can't do that much thinking about a nice event. But the mind, when there's something negative that happens yesterday, somebody offended you, or didn't give you the attention that you wanted from him, then you can start thinking of how, oh my God, what he did, he's really... Next time he does that, I'm going to say that, or he really should. Why doesn't he? You can go on for a long time dwelling on something negative, much longer than dwelling on something positive. It is so, seemingly a negative event is much more food for useless mind activity than a positive event. And this is why for many people, a significant percentage of their mind activity is negative. For some people, it is almost 100% negative, but it is unlikely that these people would get a job in this company because your predominant state of consciousness, your predominant mental emotional state, there's a certain correlation between who you associate with, where you find yourself, and even what kind of things happen to you. There is a correlation which is not always immediately recognizable, but there is a correlation between a person's predominant mental emotional state and who they are with, who their friends are, where they work, and even what happens to them. So if you are in a very negative state a long time, you tend to attract also negative events, but you can only have to find that out for yourself. I'm not saying believe me. I know it from my own life, because when I first discovered this, I was still very young. I discovered that there is a correlation between my mind activity and what happens to me. I found a book several books that somebody left with us when I was 17. And there, for the first time, I read about a person's mind, and I suddenly realized my mind was predominantly negative, because I was a very unhappy child. And so my childhood was not pleasant. And so the initial conditioning of my life was that my mind was continuously commenting and saying how bad my life was. And whenever something bad happened to me, I had a phrase that would occur again in my mind that, of course, bad things always happen to you, don't they? They're bound to happen to you. It always happens to you. So I was talking to myself and saying that bad things would always happen to me, and they did. So you can discover first that the spiritual awakening is to discover that there is continuous mind activity.
Well, the first book was called Extreme Ownership. And what that means is you're not going to make any excuses. You're not going to blame anyone else. You're going to take ownership of whatever happens. And when something goes wrong, instead of pointing fingers and blaming someone else, you're going to take ownership of that problem. You're going to take ownership of figuring out what the solution to that problem is, and you're going to take ownership of implementing that solution. So that is the number one thing that I'm looking for a leader to do, is to take ownership of the problems. And again, we called that extreme ownership. And it was one of those things that was very easy to see in a SEAL platoon, because when someone doesn't take ownership and starts pointing fingers and blaming, well, like for instance, right now, if I started pointing my finger and blaming you for something, what's your natural reaction going to be?
You get defensive, get upset. I mean, it's not my fault this broadcast isn't what I wanted it to be.
Exactly. And then what happens is we have a team where I'm pointing the finger at you, you're pointing the finger at someone else, and now we have no one taking ownership of the problems, and therefore the problems never get solved. The opposite of that is when you have a good leader that steps up and says, hey, Ben, you know what? This broadcast didn't go the way I wanted it to. I should have done a better job preparing for your questions. I'm sorry, I apologize. And now instead of you getting defensive, you say, you know what? No, actually, I could have done a better job. And now both of us are taking ownership of the problems and we're going to get them solved. If you're blaming everyone else, I can't control you. I can't control these other things outside. I can't control. The only thing I can control is me. So instead of worrying about who else is causing you problems, worry about what you can do to yourself to improve your station. And if you go down that path, you're going to find you have a lot more control than you think you do.
How do we make good decisions? Well, number one, making correct decisions. You got to study. You got to know and understand. You got to know the background. You've got to know the historical outcomes of equivalent type decisions that have happened in the past, similar situations. Mm-hmm. And if you know the history and you know the background, then you can use those to assess the current situation you're in. And then once you assess the decisions that you can make, assess the possible actions that you can take, and then assess the outcomes that those decisions will have, those actions will have. And when you're doing that, you also have to assess the possibilities of inaction. So a lot of times people forget that one. They don't know if they should do A or B. What they forget is there's also, what if I don't do either? What's going to happen? Sometimes not doing either is good. Or a lot of times not doing either is bad. So you got A or B. What should you do? Maybe sometimes you got to pick A or B. Sometimes, occasionally, it's better not to do anything. And you wait and let the situation develop a little bit more. So the point of this is whatever you can know beforehand, you know. You learn, you study, you understand, you know the standard operating procedures, you know what variations have been made on the standard operating procedures, and that's how you go forward. As leaders, I see people getting caught up all the times in little things that will not affect some white belt below them in the chain of commands going all crazy, grabbing their sleeve, and this leader on the top gets concerned about it and puts time and effort into something that doesn't matter, whether it's a little personality rub, a little ego uprising. It's like, should we do it this way or should we do it that way? It doesn't matter. That's a little sleeve grab. It doesn't matter. And I see people getting caught up on things that don't matter all the time. And what I've realized is it's something that I figured out a long time ago. I don't know when, but a long time ago, I figured out, you know what? That thing doesn't matter. I'm not going to worry about it. That thing doesn't matter. I'm not going to worry about it. That thing doesn't matter. I'm not going to worry about it. That thing matters. I'm going to focus on that thing. And that makes a big difference. It's leadership capital. Because if I'm investing my leadership capital in getting your hand off my sleeve or trying to do it my way instead of your way or trying to keep your ego in check, if that's what I'm investing my leadership capital in, I have nothing left to invest in the thing that actually matters.
So what I meant by that is every day we're seeing who we are as people. When I was growing up, I lied for people to accept me because I didn't accept myself. So I would make up stories so then you would accept me into your world. I would, everything I did was for someone else to like me. It wasn't until I started reading my own book about how pathetic I was as a human being. I could blame my dad, I can blame kids at school, I could blame having health issues, ADD, my mom not being around. I could blame a lot of people. And that's the book I was reading. And I put it off on everybody else. It wasn't until I said, you know what, for me to fix this, I gotta read what the fuck is wrong with David Goggins? Not blame anybody. Read my book and say, okay, I'm afraid of my shadow. How can I overcome that? Go in the military, get your ass kicked, do things you hate to do. Be uncomfortable every fucking day of your life. Roger that. I'm not the smartest kid in the world. Okay. Instead of somebody saying, oh no, you're smart. No, don't say that to yourself. I said to myself, no, I'm a dumb motherfucker. Okay, roger that. How you get smarter? Educate yourself. So the things that we're running from the truth. We're running from the truth, man. So the only way I became successful was going towards the truth. As painful and as brutal as it is, it changed me. It allowed me to become, in my own right, who I am today. The first ultra marathon wasn't smart at all. So basically what happened was, I was at military free fall school with Morgan Luttrell. Marcus Luttrell, if you guys don't know, was the lone survivor, the guy. He was in a bad op went bad. He was the only Navy SEAL that lived. Long story short, you gotta get the book, read Lone Survivor, great story. Morgan is Marcus Luttrell's twin brother. And I was there with Marcus. So what happened was myself and Morgan were in free fall school. At the same exact time, Marcus was in the worst incident in SEAL history. So I knew that Marcus might be dead. He wasn't dead, everybody else was dead. So I actually brought Morgan, I actually told Morgan, hey man, your brother was in a bad incident. I don't know if he's alive, I don't know what's going on. Long story short, Marcus is alive, and I go on to want to raise money for families. All these guys died, they all had kids. I want to raise money for the Special Operations Warrior Foundation. It's a foundation where 100% tuition goes to these kids to go to college, full tuition, whatever. So I found this great foundation. I'm going to raise money for it. So I said, you know what? I have to Google something that's evil, something very hard. I knew nothing about ultra marathons. I hadn't even run a marathon. I knew nothing about this world. So I Googled the top 10 hardest races in the world. And what comes up is a Badwater 135. It's a 135-mile race through Death Valley in the summertime. I thought it was a stage race. I thought it was a race where you run like 20 miles, set up camp, barbecue outside, and then go run some more the next day. So I called the race director up at the race and said, hey, Chris, his name is Chris Kosman, I want to do your race. So we had a long conversation. I was much heavier then, and I hadn't put running shoes on in over a year.
How heavy are you at this point?
I'm around between 240 to 270.
Whoa.
I'm in there. I'm in that range. My weight has varied a lot through the SEAL teams and out of the SEAL teams, so I was a heavy guy. But the long and short of it all was I hadn't put running shoes on in over a year. I was a big-time power lifter. I lifted weights heavy. That's what I did. Right. I got back home from Iraq, went straight to free fall school, and then this happened. So I called Chris Kosman up on a Wednesday. He says, look, man, the only way you can qualify for my race is to run 100 miles at one time in 24 hours or less. There happened to be a race that Saturday, so 4 days later. And he said, if you qualify by running 100 miles or less in 24 hours, I will consider you my race. My goal was 100 miles. So I got to mile 70, and I cleared 70 miles in like 12, 13 hours pretty quickly. But I was done.
I will celebrate each goal I accomplish with gratitude and joy. I choose to think positively. I choose to think positively and create a wonderful world and successful life for myself. I am grateful that my life is so happy and successful. I can never fail, for everything that happens contributes to me being better. I'm extremely passionate about constantly being better and more successful. I have the courage to create positive change in my life. I acknowledge my own self-worth. My confidence is rising. Every day I will become more confident, powerful, and successful. Feeling confident, assured, and strong is a normal part of my day-to-day life. I am self-reliant, creative, and persistent in whatever I do. I am valuable and will make powerful contributions to the world today. I made decisions based on the superstar I am becoming. I continuously push myself to learn and develop in areas of life that bring me happiness, freedom, and purpose. I am the difference that will make the difference. I wake up every morning ready for a new day of exciting possibilities. I am happy and free because I am me. I am strong. I am a strong individual who attracts success and happiness. My life is a blast of growing opportunities because I never stop creating. I am energetic and enthusiastic. Confidence is my second nature. I teach others to believe in me because I believe in myself. My actions are intentional and they bring me closer to my goals. I am learning to trust the journey. My mind is clear of self-doubt. I am ready to embrace every challenge that comes my way. I surround myself with people who push me to be my best. I have great ideas and make great contributions. Every challenge I face is an opportunity to grow and improve. I am the architect of my life. I build its foundation and choose its contents. My ability to conquer my challenges is limitless. My potential to succeed is infinite. Today, I abandon my old habits and take up new, positive ones. I am excited about the possibilities that exist for me. I am able to think greater than I feel. I am the difference that will make the difference. I create success with everything I do. My impact starts with myself. My future is unwritten, and I have the power to change. I let go of the thoughts that do not serve me. I choose to be the difference that will make the difference in my life. Today, I choose to direct my thoughts. I am inspired, and I breathe life into my goals, my dreams, and my ambitions. Today, I am committed to my purpose. I act on my inspiration. I take the action necessary regardless of how I feel. A great life, it doesn't happen by chance. It happens by design. I am responsible for making smart decisions to drive success in my personal and professional life. I am blessed to have everything in my life to make it successful. I believe in myself and my abilities. I am the architect of my fate. I can achieve what I've dreamt for myself. The whole world is full of opportunities for me to succeed and impact. I am full of vitality. My confidence, positive attitude, and self-belief are my biggest assets to take me a step closer to my success. I'm not afraid of failures. I learn from my mistakes and turn failures into favorable results.
The economy is going to change no matter what you want it to do. The weather is going to change. Relationships are going to change. Everything in life is always changing. We don't have to work on change. Change is automatic, but progress is not. So if you want to make real progress, then you really got to look at your life in a different way. You got to say, I got to take control of this process and not just hope it's going to work out like people do who make a resolution.
You have to own your own happiness. Take it away from other people demanding that they make you happy. Your kids are not going to make you happy. Your spouse is not going to make you happy. A big house is not going to make you happy. Own your own happiness and be responsible for doing those things that bring joy into your own heart, independently of life and people and money and all of that stuff. Right. It doesn't necessarily give you a happiness. You have to take responsibility of that peace and that joy that lives inside of your heart and not inside of your stuff.
It's a hunt. It's a pursuit. It's a constant thing. It's going on all the time. And when you're in the middle of it, in motion, that's when you feel your best. But the discomfort of that motion makes people so uneasy that they feel like, well, I'm going to go through this discomfort and then I'm going to get to a place of stillness where it's all going to make sense. Finally, I made it. I'm here to tell you that fucking place doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. It's not a real place. It's a place that people look to as an inspirational goal, a destination, and that's going to be the thing that you work hard for. You're gonna push until you get to this place, and then it's all going to be worth it. That place is not real. If you have $1 million, you want $1 billion. If you have a big house, you want a bigger house. You have to find out what actually makes you happy, and it's not having all your ducks in a row on paper. It's improvement. It's improvement in the way you manage your mind. It's improvement in the way you manage your emotions.
Don't worry about what needs to be done. Think about who you have to be in order to get it done. And you do this by focusing on all the things that you're grateful for. Focus on what's working in your life rather than fixating on what isn't working. Maybe you're grateful for the person that's lying next to you. Maybe you're thinking of your children. Maybe it's a dog lying on the side of your bed. Maybe you're listening to the birds outside your window. It's the wonderful house you live in. Maybe it's the wonderful organization that you belong to. It doesn't matter what it is. You just feel it with your heart and soul. You build from there and you keep going. Why do I want you to do this? Because gratitude is the most powerful connection you have to your higher self. You always want to start your day connected to this higher self. And when you do, life becomes easier. You don't take things personally. When you're confronted with a challenge, you just look at it for what it's worth. It's a challenge. Everybody's confronted with challenges. And you know that there's something within you that can meet it and overcome it and move forward as a result of it. Tell yourself you're going to enjoy the day. Say it to yourself, you know what, I'm going to enjoy the day. This is going to be a good day. Visualize how you want your life to go. Visualize yourself having fun with your fellow workers, the people you're working for, who are working for you. Doesn't matter. Just visualize yourself achieving the goal. And always find the laughter within you and around you every day of your life. And that should start in the morning before you leave the house. There's humor all around you. We get so caught up in our thought process on what needs to be done, we let all the funny stuff in our lives just pass us by. Another thing that can put you in a great mood every day, do something nice for somebody. Do something nice for somebody. There's nothing that can bounce you back to enjoy the day than that. All these things that I am telling you is giving you a different thought process, a different focus to look at life from a different perspective. But our lives move in the direction of our most dominant thoughts and what we focus on day in and day out. Not only do our lives move in the direction of what we focus on and what we think about, but those very things that we're thinking about and focusing on are moving closer to us. In other words, people, the more you focus on your lack, the more of that you're going to get back. Because people, when you start laughing at a negative, intense, stressful, overwhelming situation like that, your brain is no longer focusing on that negative situation. Your brain could only focus on one thing at a time. Right now, your brain is laughing at something ridiculous that you just did. And even if your brain did go back to that negative situation, which it will do eventually, but guess what? It won't be as overwhelming as it was before because you've calmed your nervous system down to the point where you can control the situation instead of having that situation control you. How to acquire the attitude that you need to succeed on all levels of life while enjoying the process. There within lies the key phrase, my friends, while enjoying the process, because it seems to be something that most of us leave by the wayside. Especially when we're setting out to achieve our goals, when we want to accomplish something, we get so caught up that enjoying ourselves becomes secondary.
First, never underestimate your own intelligence, and never overestimate the intelligence of others. Don't sell yourself short. Concentrate on your assets. Discover your superior talents. Remember, it's not the amount of intelligence you have that counts. It's how you use what you've got. Learn to effectively manage your brains instead of worrying about your IQ. Secondly, constantly remind yourself, my attitudes are more important than my intelligence. At work and at home, practice positive attitudes. See the reasons why you can do it, not the reasons why you can't. Put your intelligence to creative, positive use. Find ways to win, not ways to lose. Finally, remember that the ability to think is much more valuable than the ability to memorize facts. Use your mind to create and develop ideas, to seek solutions, to find new and better ways of doing things.
So far, we've talked about belief as a basic ingredient of success, and we've talked about excusitis as a major cause of failure. Now I want to state for you the most important single concept in your plan for personal success. Where success is concerned, people are not measured in inches or pounds or college degrees or family background. They are measured by the size of their thinking. How big we think determines the size of our accomplishments. So what we are going to do now is to enlarge your thinking. The first step in this process is to clear away some of the obstacles to thinking big. One of the first ones is self-deprecation. That is, the tendency to run ourselves down or sell ourselves short. This is a very common failure, and many people condemn themselves to a life of mediocrity by refusing to believe in their own abilities and their own self-worth. But I can prove to you right now, by way of another experiment in your people laboratory, that you are many times more accomplished, smarter, and better than you think you are. Here's the experiment.
First, think of your 3 major assets. These can be anything that you know that you're good at. You may be well organized, or a good listener, or perhaps you're good at creative solutions to everyday problems. Whatever these are, think of 3 positive attributes that you give yourself credit for. Now, considering each asset in turn, one at a time, think of at least 2 people that you know who you consider more successful than yourself, but who you feel do not have that particular asset to the degree that you do. For example, maybe your coworker got a promotion last month, but you didn't. But if you think about it, you're a better problem solver than that person is. Do this process for each of the 3 assets you've chosen. And once you've done that, consider this conclusion. You've just identified at least 6 people who are now more successful than you, and in at least one area, you're better than all of them. So the next time you're selling yourself short, recall this experiment and enlarge your thinking. It's important to keep in mind that there's nothing abstract or mystical about learning to think big. It's a very concrete, practical process, and there are specific things you can do to develop the skill. For example, consider the way you speak. Now, words are the raw materials of thought. When you hear words or read words, your mind automatically converts them into images. And when you're doing the speaking or the writing, you're acting as a kind of projector, in effect showing movies in the minds of others. The pictures that you create will determine the reactions to what you're saying. For example, let's suppose you're in a group of people at work, and the supervisor comes before your group and says, "Well, I'm sorry to say that this project has failed." Now, what's your group going to see from these words? What kind of images will you get? You'll see images of disappointment and defeat, inspired by that word, failed. But now let's suppose the supervisor comes before the group and says, "I've got a new approach here that I really believe will work, and I'd like to get your feedback on it." Now, this is a response that will easily fit the same situation, but the supervisor has not created any negative images. Instead, he's created positive ones. The group feels encouraged. They're ready to try again. By the same token, if the supervisor says, "We've got a problem," then the task ahead looks formidable, maybe even insurmountable. But if instead he says, "We face a challenge," then your mind images are likely to be positive. You've got something to look forward to, something to really sink your teeth into. The point is simply this: big thinkers are specialists in creating positive, forward-looking, optimistic pictures in their own minds and in the minds of others. To think big, we have to use words and phrases that produce big, positive mental images. So here are some examples of phrases that create negative, small mental images, followed by phrases that create big, positive ones. Listen to each of these and ask yourself in each case, what mind pictures do I see?
I've tried, but this product just won't sell. The fact is, people don't want it.
So far, I haven't been able to move this product, but I know it's good, and I'm going to find the formula that'll put it across.
I was in that business once, but it failed. Never again.
I went broke the first time, but I learned a lot from it. Now I'm ready to give it another shot.
Well, let's face it. This one's over. We're whipped.
This is far from over. Let's keep trying. Hey, I've got a great idea.
Did you notice the difference in the images that those phrases created? Now, listen to the words that you hear around you every day and see if you can perceive the difference between the images created by successful people and the images created by mediocre people. And while you're doing this, start developing your own big thinker's vocabulary. You can do it with these 4 steps. First, use big, positive, cheerful words and phrases to describe how you feel. Remember the cures for health excusitis? When you say, "I feel great," you make yourself feel better, and you make others around you feel better too. Say that you feel wonderful at every possible opportunity, and you'll begin to feel better and bigger and more successful. Second, use bright, cheerful, favorable words to describe other people. When you and someone else are discussing a third party who's not present, don't run that person down. Instead, go out of your way to compliment that person with big words and phrases, like, "They tell me she's working out fantastically well. Everybody's delighted she's here." Sooner or later, negative words will get back to the person person in question, and that will only serve to cut you down. Next, use positive language to encourage others. Compliment people personally at every opportunity. Everyone craves praise. Have a special good word for your wife or husband every day. Notice and compliment the people who work with you and for you. Praise, sincerely administered, is a success tool. It's one we'll discuss more later. Learn to use this tool again and again. Finally, use positive words to outline plans to others. Go back to our list of negative and positive phrases from a few minutes ago. Make the positive images part of your vocabulary and weed out the negative ones. When people hear you say, "Here's some good news, we've got a genuine opportunity," then you'll get cooperation, enthusiasm, and success in return. But if you say, "Like it or not, we've got a job to do," then you're creating a dull, boring image, and people will react accordingly. So build castles with your words. Don't dig graves.
So the very first time I hosted the show, we got to the end, and I was to announce the winner of the 2015 Miss Universe pageant. Now, we had rehearsed this all week long. We would announce the second runner-up and then the winner. Second runner-up and then the winner. They changed it. I said that's the best way to do it. So that night, and all in rehearsal, 2 names on the card. They just put fake names on the card because they don't know. All through rehearsal, 2 names on the card. That night, when it's time to announce the winner, the teleprompter, they handed me the card. I see the 2 names, and I got the card down. The teleprompter, right inside the camera, says, "And the new 2015 Miss Universe is," that's what it said. I read that. I'm looking. That's it. I'm reading. I can read. I ain't all that smart, but I can read. The new 2015 Miss Universe is. I wear an IBF in my ear. It's 2 names on the card. He says, "Say the second name. Hold, hold, hold. Now, Miss Columbia." Great job, Steve. Go in the back. Set up for the close. I go in the back. 2 minutes later, the stage manager comes to me and goes, "Steve, you said the wrong name." Who are you talking to? He said, "Steve, you said the wrong name." I didn't say the wrong name. I read the teleprompter, then I read the name on the card. I read it. It's right there. It said Miss Columbia. It ain't 2 of them, it's just 1. He said, "But they put a 3rd name on the card. It was under your thumb." I said, "Wait a minute. We've been practicing all week with just 2 names. Who put the 3rd name on the card? When was y'all gonna tell me?" He said, "Don't worry about it. We'll straighten it out tomorrow in the newspaper." I said, "Oh, no. I go out here now." Because my father raised me to be a man of honor. That when you make a mistake, you have to own up to it. So I said, I'm going to go out here and I'm going to tell them now. Because the winner was really Miss Philippines. Miss Philippines was the winner. I said, "Miss Columbia, it's a mistake." I go out. I said, "I made a huge mistake." My wife was on the 3rd row. I saw her face. My son was sitting next to her. I saw them. They looked so hurtful. It was the worst mistake in television. So I said, "I'm sorry, but this is the mistake that was made." I said, "It was my fault." Negativity, you can protect yourself from negativity. And that's what stops most people, negative thought. You can coat your mind from negativity. It's a real simple exercise to do. I do it every morning before I walk out the door. So I walk out as a positive person. You know, I get tired sometimes. That's different from being negative because I get mentally drained from my job at times. But to coat your mind from negativity, the way you can put a coating around your mind is with one simple thing, gratitude. Gratitude erases negativity. I'm gonna show you how this works. If you wake up in the morning, you start having negative thoughts, man, this ain't my day. I woke up on the wrong side of the bed. I'm tripping, I just don't feel myself. Every time you feel, in the middle of the day, if you feel yourself doing that, stop, just stop for a second and start going over in your mind everything you have to be grateful for. Not everything you want, everything you already have. Because what you have is substantial. You just haven't gone over the list and taken inventory in a long time. But the fact that you can walk, that's a blessing. The fact that you woke up, that's another blessing. The fact that you can see, think, reason, that's another blessing. The fact that you can go somewhere and get yourself something to eat, that's another blessing. The fact that you can go and turn the key and call someplace home, that's another blessing. The ability to dream is a blessing. The fact that you have an opportunity to get it right is another blessing. The fact that you're beautiful, that's another blessing. The fact that you have any measure of health, that's another blessing. And I'm just talking to you, I don't even know you. I could give you 50 things you ought to be grateful for right now. I don't even know you. Start coating your mind with gratitude. It'll change everything for you.
So today's message is about thinking. There's some stats you need to know. Number one is, average person, you and I have about 75,000 thoughts a day rattling around in this thing we call our brains and our minds. 75,000 of them. The crazy thing is 91% of those thoughts are identical to the previous day and are identical to the day before that and the day before that and the day before that. And then we wonder why our life seems to repeat itself over and over again. So really the difference in our life, if we have 75,000 thoughts a day, here's the crazy thing, 91% of them are exactly the same. The separation in our life is in those 9% of their thoughts, because remember this, these magnets are pretty powerful. That's why I'm always saying that your obsessions become your possessions, because they do. You draw into your life exactly what it is you think about. It's a physical reality that you attract to yourself what you think about. So the difference in our life is 9% of our thoughts. That's why people say all the time the difference between winning and losing is so small, it's almost too scary to talk about. And really, we've identified what it is. It's 9% of what we think about alters the direction of our life. So what I'm here to tell you today is you've got to hone in and get aware of what you think about and then alter those 9% of the thoughts that are variable on a daily basis to serve you. Because if you don't, these thoughts become like viruses. They're viruses in our mind. What happens in a computer when it gets a virus? It slows down. It becomes sluggish. It doesn't function at its optimal level. Same thing with our thinking. If we don't get those 9% of our thoughts to serve us, our lives go in a completely different direction. So remember this. You don't see things in your life as they are. You see things in life as you are. And so the more you alter you, the more you begin to see things differently. What's is amazing about this is we control who we are by what we think about. Think about this just for a second. Wherever you're sitting watching this, the chair that you're sitting in, if you're sitting in a chair, if you're driving in a car and you're listening to this, that seat you're in started in someone's mind as a thought, right? Every detail of it, the fabric, the cushions, the way it's structured, every single piece of that started in someone's mind as a thought and then became a reality by putting out the pieces together. See, everything in life is that way as well. It always begins with a thought. When we think a new thought, Here's what literally happens. Thinking a new thought literally opens a space up in our minds, in our lives, that never existed before prior to having that thought. It's like a brand new space you've created just by thinking it. And what happens is your unconscious and subconscious mind goes to work on filling in that space with the people, places, resources, and things to fill it up like a room and an architect would, to fill up that space and fully furnish it. That's the power of how we think. So literally everything that exists started as a thought in someone's mind and then became a material matter. And so you've got to begin to think about the things you want to materialize in your life on a regular basis and think about it repetitiously. Literally the things that we obsess about become the things that we possess in our lives. Most people, those variable 9% of the thoughts is the new thing they're worried about, the new fear they have, the new response to an email they have to make, and they never dictate the terms. Remember this, your mind is a weapon. And you got to begin to use it and pick that weapon up and control it. Most people are out of control with their mind. They don't point it at something. They let the world point it, and they misfire all the time. So today, I want you to pick up that weapon that is your mind and begin to point it at the things you want, knowing that it's a magnet that draws to you the things in your life that you would most like to have or that you would most not like to have. And that's where most people make the mistakes in their life. So today I want you to begin with first taking an inventory of the thoughts you have that don't serve you. And I want you to write them down. And I want you to eliminate them. Step one, write down the thoughts that don't serve you and eliminate them. How do I eliminate them? By replacement. You eliminate them with replacement, by thinking a new thought. It's as simple as saying, what thought would I need to have that would serve me to get this goal or dream or vision that I have? And get that thought, write it down, repeat it over and over and over and over again. Because there's a part of our brain called the reticular activating system.
But I think that's good advice. Don't be a follower, be a student, right? Take advice, but not orders. Take information, but don't let somebody, order your life. Make sure what you do is the product of your own conclusion. Excellent note to make. Make sure what you do is the product of your own conclusion. Not to do what someone else says. Take what someone else says, process it, think about it, ponder it. If it makes you wonder, if it makes you think, then it's valuable. Then when you go take action, make sure that the action is not what somebody told you to do. Make sure the action is the product of your own conclusion. If you'll follow just a little bit of those simple guidelines, I'm telling you, the learning process can be speedy, swift, powerful. Your learning curve can go up, and then applying it to your business, your life, your family, conversations, equities of all kinds. You'll find some progress like I did that first 5 years when I met a teacher willing to share with me, turn my life around. Progress I couldn't believe happened for me. Okay, let's get started. I want to review, I was here last time and we talked about the 5 major pieces to the life puzzle. And I just want to review those because it lays such a good foundation for all the rest that I want to share with you today. We got a lot of subjects to cover, so we're going to go rather swiftly, okay? Put on your mental track shoes here and run with me today, because I'm going to deal mostly in concepts. Expect you to, fill in a lot of the details, because I got a lot to share. I want to get through it all. But let's lay this foundation again of the 5 major pieces. Happens to be the title of my latest book, but I think it is so valuable in laying a foundation. It's some of the things I learned between ages 25 and 30. The teacher who taught me so well. He dealt in these fundamentals, we call these. Fundamentals. We call these basics. Basics for sports, fundamentals for sports, fundamentals for your business, fundamentals for the way you deal with your family, a few simple things, a few basic things that if you practice every day can make all the difference in the world, how it works out. I boiled it down to 5 major pieces to the life puzzle. Let's just review those. Number 1 is philosophy. Philosophy, as I taught the last time I was here, philosophy, in my personal opinion, is the major determining factor in how your life works out. Philosophy, the major determining factor in how your life works out. Philosophy. To form our philosophy, you got to think, got to use your mind, got to process ideas. And this whole process over a lifetime, starting way back here when we were children, schools that we've attended, our parents, our experiences, all this stuff that we've processed by the thinking process helps to develop our philosophy. And in my opinion, each person's personal philosophy is the major factor in how your life works out. Here's what I called it in that last presentation when I was here. It's called the set of the sail. Each person's personal philosophy is like the set of the sail. Now, I used to think it was circumstances that ordered my life. If someone would have asked me at age 25, Mr. Rohn, how come you're not doing well? Pennies in your pocket, creditors calling, nothing in the bank, behind on your promises to your family, you live in America, 25 years old, got a beautiful family, every reason to do well, and things are not going that well for you, what is wrong here? It would not have occurred to me to blame my philosophy. I mean, it would not have occurred to me. Saying, well, I got this lousy philosophy, and that's how come I got pennies in my pocket and nothing in the bank. Things aren't working well. That would not have occurred to me. I found it much easier to blame the government. Much easier to blame the tax problem. I used to say taxes are too high. Top tax rate when I first started paying tax, 91%. Back then, when your income reached a certain level, all your income over that, 91%. So I used to say that's too high. Now, the top tax rate's about 33%. But people are still saying what? Taxes are too. See, but you can't use that anymore. If it's gone from 91 to 33, how could it be too high? Come on. I threw all that old excuse stuff away. Some people found it, though, and they're my old list. I used to blame the traffic, the weather, used to blame circumstances, right? People say I'm too tall, I'm too short, I'm too old. I was raised in obscurity, raised on a farm, parents of modest means, all the stuff. If you were to ask me, how come you find yourself here, Mr. Rohn, age 25, living in America, land of abundance and opportunity, pennies, zero in the bank, not doing well, creditors calling, it would not have occurred to me to blame my philosophy. I found it easier to blame the company policy. I used to say, if this is all they pay, how do they expect you to do well? So I figured that, my future was going to be tied to what everybody else was arranging, the economy and, right, interest rates. I used to say things cost too much. That was my whole explanation, not my philosophy, until my teacher taught me better that this is where the problem was, my own personal philosophy. Here's what's exciting about each person's personal philosophy. That's what makes us different than dogs and animals and birds and cats and spiders and alligators. That's what makes us different than all of the life forms. The ability to think, the ability to use your mind, the ability to process ideas, and not just operate by instinct. In the winter, I'm telling you, the goose can only fly south. What if south doesn't look too good? Tough luck. It can only fly south. But see, human beings are not like a goose, can only fly south. I mean, you can turn around, go north, you can go east, you can go west, you can order the entire process of your own life. And we do that by the way we think. We do that by exercising our mind.